One day a girl stands in a quiet church as the church grants Fiona Lemaire the duty of saint before the gathered people, and the meaning slowly reaches her heart as Fiona Lemaire understands the moment and accepts the role as the saint. The church reveals that the saint is a highest position that carries the power of the light attribute, and this sacred role holds great honor and authority. This declaration confirms that the young girl Fiona Lemaire will become the next head of the Lemaire family, while Lord Douglas listens to the announcement and accepts the future of Fiona Lemaire as the new leader of the family. The church hall fills with applause as the people celebrate the new saint, and the sound of praise spreads through the seats while Fiona walks forward toward the altar and receives the honor given by the church. A voice offers warm praise and gives congratulations to Sister as the name Fiona is spoken with recognition of the new saint. Fiona offers gratitude toward Tennies, and Fiona recognizes that the moment now belongs to Tennies as the next turn approaches. Fiona encourages him to hold his head high as Tennies accepts the words and gives quiet agreement while his hand moves toward the stone. He understands that with this moment the course of his life will be set in stone. Tennies stands before the sacred stone while the church and the gathered people watch in silence, and the moment of judgment approaches for him. He stands before the sacred stone, yet no oracle appears, and the watching crowd begins to understand the meaning as whispers spread that Tennies is a hermit. The hall recognizes that another hermit has appeared from the family, and anger rises within Lord Douglas as he declares the result a disgrace and a useless effort while demanding the useless child be taken away. Fiona cries out to Lord Douglas and begs her father to wait as the harsh judgment falls upon Tennies. Fiona rises with firm resolve and declares that as the legitimate next head of the Lemaire family, Fiona commands that the younger brother Tennies Lemaire be banished from the Lemaire family. The judgment spreads through the church as the fate of Tennies Lemaire is sealed by the order of Fiona. 1 week before the ceremony, Tennies sits alone inside a quiet room while books rest within his hands and study fills the silent hours as he prepares for the future that approaches. Fiona enters with bright energy and greets Tennies while carrying a tall stack of books, and Fiona reveals that the visit is meant to spend time together. Tennies recognizes the return of Sister and questions the reason for the visit, while Fiona believes that siblings need no reason to spend time together. Tennies reminds Fiona once again that their standing within the family is completely different. Fiona is known as the elder sister and the true daughter of her father the Lord together with his wife Lamia, and this place gives Fiona rightful standing within the noble family. Tennies exists as the child born from the Lord and a young servant, and this birth leaves Tennies with a far lower place within the same family. The servant who gave birth to Tennies was naturally banished from the estate, and her face became unknown within the memory of the castle. Tennies grows within the castle, yet receives treatment like an invisible presence because the secret child holds no true place within the noble house. However, this quiet life continues within the shadow of the great castle. Fiona arrives again with bright excitement and places a tall stack of additional books upon the table while revealing that more books have been brought along. Tennies recognizes that the books given before have already been finished, and Fiona gently reminds him that diligence in study is admirable, yet effort should not become excess. Fiona carefully places the books into the shelf, while Tennies quietly reflects that Fiona remains the only person who truly cares and watches over him. Fiona studies the request and wonders if he intends to master every magic attribute, then expresses surprise that a grimoire of fire attribute was requested before yet this time a grimoire of lightning attribute is chosen. Tennies believes such talent cannot be achieved alone and doubts that such power can truly be reached by personal effort. Fiona is already known for mastering light magic, and Fiona learns magic faster than anyone within the family, even though she does not always appear to study. Tennies believes that mastering all magic attributes would be nearly impossible, and such ability would be difficult to find within any person. Fiona accepts the thought, yet reveals that stories speak of at least one person who once succeeded in mastering every attribute. Fiona rests close beside Tennies and breathes softly while gentle comfort surrounds the moment. She admits that the presence of him carries a soothing scent, and the quiet warmth brings calm to Fiona. Tennies feels sudden alarm as Fiona appears upon the bed, and the moment brings uneasy surprise because the bed belongs to him. He reminds Fiona that the last visit led to an attempt to steal a piece of worn underwear, and the strange memory deepens the confusion surrounding Sister Fiona. Fiona declares with playful confidence that everything belonging to Tennies should belong to the elder sister, and Fiona proudly claims that all things are her things. Tennies considers the strange logic and wonders if such words mean that every belonging will disappear, while Fiona continues to laugh with carefree delight. Tennies quietly accepts that Fiona may be correct while reflecting upon the life shaped by birth as an outcast. The room, the books, the bed, and even the life of Tennies feel like borrowed things that may never truly belong and may not remain for long. Fiona moves close behind him and gently holds him while speaking softly to Tennies. Fiona reminds him that the bond of siblings exists between them, and this bond alone is something real that cannot be taken away. Fiona holds him close and quietly gives agreement while accepting the warmth of the embrace. Fiona gently calls the name Tennies, and Fiona wonders whether the thought of oracles brings fear to Tennies while remaining close beside him. Within the cathedral of the imperial capital, a massive stone stands as the place known for oracles, where divine revelations are delivered upon the surface from time to time by the will of God. The power of oracles begins to guide the rule of politics as leaders follow the divine revelations written upon the stone. These revelations bring unity across the continent, and during that time the current emperor receives an oracle that shapes the future of the empire. The oracle declares that the most fitting person among the next heads of the families of the 10 luminaries will become the next ruling emperor. The 10 luminaries rule the territories surrounding the imperial capital and hold authority just below the emperor, and the Lemaire family stands among these 10 luminaries as a distinguished noble house ranked 9th. To them, Fiona and Tennies stand as candidates to become the next head of the family. Oracles hold great importance to them and guide the fate of their future. A next head from a family of the 10 luminaries carries the hope of gaining a chance in the succession war. They are therefore expected to gain a rare job. That hope also carries a quiet wish that such a chance may allow him to remain in the castle. His thoughts turn to the hope of obtaining a rare job as well. Fiona tells him not to worry and gently reminds him that he remains only a small shut-in. Tennies holds his resolve and believes that if anything happens, he will surely support Fiona as his sister. Fiona reaches out her hand and forms a promise that he will help her if something happens to her. Tennies accepts the promise and declares that he will help Fiona if something happens to her as well. The moment becomes a quiet vow between sister and brother. In his heart, only Fiona looks at him with such honest eyes. Their fingers link together in a quiet promise, and Tennies gives his word that Fiona will have his support. The small gesture seals their vow and binds their resolve as brother and sister. He carries a quiet hatred toward people. Many years of malice and enmity from others surround his life and shape that feeling within his heart. Those memories remain heavy and follow him through the passing years. Fiona remains the only person who truly cares for him. She happily declares that she has finished recharging herself with the scent of her adorable brother. Tennies quietly thinks that such behavior feels a little frightening. Even so, that warmth from Fiona remains enough to keep him going for a while. Fiona acknowledges that the result with the oracle may turn out in any way, yet she promises that she will protect him so he can rest easy. She soon takes her leave and bids farewell to him. He remains seated and watches her departure in silence. Power suddenly gathers within Tennies, and a strange flame forms in his hand. The energy rises fiercely and bursts upward like a blazing surge, while Tennies watches the power with quiet focus. Silence fills the moment as the mysterious force continues to burn. The small flame resting above his hand reflects that quiet resolve. He has long understood his own standing in this place. Too much attention would lead to death, and foolish actions would lead to death as well. Because of that harsh truth, he learned many things to face every kind of situation. Tennies spent 16 years quietly honing his skills. An excess of time in his hands allowed him to study and practice while the days passed in silence. Knowledge and ability slowly gathered around him during those long years of solitude. He forms a firm oath within his heart. He vows that he will do anything necessary to keep Fiona away from harm. The flame resting in his hand burns with that unwavering resolve. The day before the Oracle Day arrives at Lemaire Castle in the western mountain forest. Tennies sits quietly among the graves and admits that he truly likes this place. Only the dead rest here, and their silent presence gives him peace within the tranquil atmosphere. A small dog named Prill appears and greets Tennies with a cheerful bark. He greets Prill and hopes that the little one is doing well. Prill jumps happily into his arms, and he laughs while noticing that the playful movement feels a little ticklish. The moment warms his heart as he expresses relief that Prill remains well. Soon a voice calls his name, and the quiet moment begins to shift. Fiona appears before Tenny's, and he recognizes her as sister. She reveals that she followed his trail after hearing that he was wandering in the mountain area and wonders what he is doing there. Tenny's reflects that his presence is faint, which makes it difficult for others to notice him, yet Fiona always manages to find him. Fiona notices the small creature beside Tenny's and pauses in surprise. She admires the cute puppy, then quickly realizes that it carries a tail and understands that it is the cub of a black Fenrir. Tenny's quietly confirms her guess, while Prill remains close beside him. Fiona warns that the creature beside Tenny's is a legendary dangerous magical beast, yet Tenny's dismisses that concern and insists that Prill is safe. He explains that when he first came to this place Prill was starving, so he gave it food. After that moment Prill slowly grew close to him and remained by his side. Fiona happily accepts the small cub and gives it the name Prill, while wondering if this place is truly safe since vicious magical beasts sometimes appear here. Fiona senses the danger and warns that staying too long will be dangerous, so they should leave soon. At that moment a fierce beast suddenly emerges, and its presence breaks the quiet of the cave. Fiona freezes in shock as a wild bear appears before them. Tenny's also recognizes the creature and understands the danger that now stands in their path. The massive beast crashes down near the graves, and its heavy presence shakes the quiet cave. Prill urgently warns Tenny's to run as the wild bear charges forward. The beast strikes with brutal force and Fiona is thrown away as the ground and gravestones shatter under the impact. Tenny's watches in shock and calls out to his sister while the violent attack tears through the quiet graveyard. Prill barks with urgency as the wild bear approaches again. Fiona lies unconscious in Tenny's arms, yet the wound on her body remains only a scratch thanks to the blessing of light magic. Tenny slowly rises and stands before the massive beast while protecting Fiona behind him. The silent graveyard becomes a battlefield as Tenny's faces the towering bear. Tenny's unleashes a technique known as mass burst as he charges toward the wild bear. His sudden movement shocks the beast and forces it back as the clash erupts with violent force. Lightning magic surges through his body and strengthens his muscles to amplify his power. Getting combat experience becomes crucial for Tenny's because many dangers exist in the world around him. A massive wild bear lunges forward with jaws wide and claws raised in a violent attack. Tenny's charges straight toward the beast and swings his blade with fierce determination. His strike cuts across the bear's head as the force of the slash bursts through the moment of impact. Through constant battles against magical beasts, he increases his physical abilities while placing his life on the line in every fight. Survival becomes necessary in such a harsh world, and each battle strengthens his body and resolve. Yet the reason behind his struggle reaches beyond survival, because Tenny's fights so he can protect his sister Fiona. After the battle, he kneels beside Prill the small horned dog and gently comforts the frightened creature. Fiona pauses with quiet confusion as the sudden silence leaves her wondering what happened to the wild bear. Tenny's carries Fiona on his back along the path, while the strange absence of the beast brings surprise and uncertainty to the moment. Fiona considers the possibility that luck stood on their side and that the wild bear simply stopped its pursuit before turning away. Tenny's listens to her quiet thought and accepts the simple answer as the danger fades behind them. Fiona rests against Tenny's with gentle relief as happiness fills her heart because Tenny's remains safe after the dangerous encounter. Gratitude and comfort stay close between them as Fiona quietly holds onto him. Time moves forward until the day of the oracle arrives and the atmosphere changes as judgment begins to fall upon. A harsh accusation rises as certain Fiona declare that hermits are crooks who have been forsaken by God. She strengthens the rejection as such people are declared unfit to stand in that place, and the weight of those words falls upon Tenny's. A stern declaration rises against Tenny's as judgment falls without mercy. The decision casts him away from the Lemaire family, and the bond of that noble house is severed. The punishment continues as his noble peerage is stripped away as well. The Adventurer Guild stands in the Lepos area as a place where many adventurers gather for work and opportunity. Celicia, a member of the Adventurer Guild staff, guides Tenny's through the building and presents each part of the place with welcoming confidence. The tour of the building reaches its conclusion as Celicia finishes the introduction to the guild. Tenny's offers sincere gratitude for the guidance, and appreciation follows the effort Cilicia has given. The moment settles with quiet understanding as the introduction to the Adventurer Guild comes to an end. Tenny's walks through the guild building while the memory of recent events remains clear in his mind. After receiving the Oracle, Tenny's faced immediate rejection and was driven out of the castle without hesitation. The harsh decision forced him to leave his former place behind and begin a different path. A quiet arrangement followed the banishment as payment was given for a service that required silence about the truth of that exile. An arrangement places Tenny's in a back-of-house position at the Adventurer Guild far from the central halls. The role becomes simple work as a handyman who handles small tasks that keep the guild running. Cilicia studies the document before her while a quiet hesitation appears as she considers the situation. Tenny's remains polite and composed during the meeting, which leaves a favorable impression. Cilicia grows pleasantly surprised as she realizes that Tenny shows far better manners than she first expected. Cilicia studies Tenny's with quiet curiosity as the impression before her differs from the image she once imagined. She seeks confirmation and wonders if that understanding truly reflects the person standing before her. Tenny's explains that he has never spoken about his background and allowed the rumors to spread on their own. The stories continue to circulate among people and shape a reputation that Tenny's never tried to correct. Those rumors describe him as an ill-mannered noble son who was sent away to work after causing trouble. Cilicia explains that many things in the guild may feel difficult during the beginning. She offers her support with open kindness and encourages Tenny's to rely on her as his senior whenever help becomes necessary. The welcoming attitude leaves a gentle impression on Tenny's as he quietly observes her cheerful nature. In that moment, Tenny's begins to feel that Cilicia is truly a good person, and the thought settles calmly in his mind. Tenny's expresses sincere gratitude for accepting him and allowing him to work at the guild. Cilicia reacts with surprised curiosity as she notices his respectful attitude and wonders about his words. The small confession reveals her excitement about guiding someone for the first time, and the atmosphere between them grows lighter with that simple honesty. The conversation continues as Cilicia admits that the moment brings unexpected happiness because this is the first time she has ever had a junior at the guild. Tenny's calmly wonders what responsibilities the handyman work will involve and waits for the answer. Cilicia reflects on the situation and explains that the guild is still discussing the matter because a handyman position has never existed in the guild before. She apologizes while considering what duties such a role might include. After hearing the uncertainty, Tenny's quietly decides to take his leave for the moment. The sudden decision surprises Cilicia, and she quickly reaches out while calling for him to wait, because the thought of him leaving so quickly catches her completely off guard. Cilicia begins the explanation and tells Tenny's that duties in the guild follow the rules and code of the Adventurer Guild. She presents a book and asks Tenny's to study those rules carefully so the work can follow the proper order. Tenny's quietly answers that the study has already been completed, which brings sudden surprise to the moment. Confusion rises between them as both pause with brief disbelief, and the unexpected answer leaves them staring at each other in quiet puzzlement. Cilicia reacts with surprise and wonders when Tenny's managed to learn the guild rules so quickly. Tenny's explains that the guild leader handed him the book after the interview, and the moment he returned home, he began studying it with careful attention. The pages received full focus as Tenny spent his time going through the contents without delay. Cilicia with a serious tone and asks him to listen carefully. Doubt appears in her mind as she wonders if Tenny's is only pretending to know the rules because he stands before his senior. She warns him not to pose or act knowledgeable, just to maintain an appearance. Tenny's answers with honest seriousness and assures her that the claim is not an act. Cilicia then tests his words and asks about Section 3, Paragraph 3 of the Adventurer Guild Code while waiting to see if his knowledge is real. Tenny's answers the test with steady confidence and explains that the second clause concerns the way adventurers obtain their qualifications. The rule describes the special abilities required for a person to function as an adventurer and outlines the standards that must be met. Those abilities include combat ability, durability, agility, endurance, information gathering, and communication skills, along with other essential talents. Cilicia listens while holding the book, and sudden surprise spreads across her face as she realizes that Tenny's truly understands the guild code. Her voice carries urgency as the question pushes forward while she grips the book tightly, and waits to see if Tenny's can answer once again. Determined to confirm the truth, she quickly presents another challenge and demands the explanation of Section 23, Paragraph 8 of the Adventurer Guild Code. Tenny's answers without hesitation and explains that Section 23 concerns the expenses of adventurers. The code describes that adventurers usually pay such costs from their own pocket, yet certain conditions allow those expenses to be reimbursed. He continues with the explanation that Paragraph 8 relates to transportation and the rules connected to travel by carriage. Cilicia listens while surprise deepens because Tenny's delivers each detail with calm certainty. Tenny's also reflects that the Adventurer Guild Code is simply a list of rules unlike complex spell books, and even a long list could be reviewed within a single day through careful study. Cilicia holds the documents close and studies Tenny's with growing doubt as curiosity rises about the quiet boy before her and the truth behind his faint presence. Tenny's stands with quiet posture and explains that he is only a shut-in with a faint presence that few people notice, and the simple answer brings a small understanding to Cilicia. Cilicia then returns her thoughts to guild work and decides that the other staff of the guild may know if any jobs are available for Tenny's. Tenny's bows politely before the guild desk and accepts the decision while waiting with quiet patience for whatever opportunity the guild may provide. Tenny's looks toward the wide field beside the building and considers the simple task before him as the work of weed pulling becomes the offered job. Cilicia reacts with sudden shock as the boy who carries such ability calmly refuses the chance to work with a refreshing smile. Cilicia stands near him with a troubled expression and offers an apology while explaining that such a menial task does not seem fitting for someone as brilliant as Tenny's. Tenny's answers with gentle acceptance and explains that the absence of other jobs causes no trouble for him and that the simple work does not bother him at all. An Adventurer Guild staff member named Humid explains the task given to Tenny's and declares that every weed in the back garden must be removed before the day ends, while the man also wonders if such work should be easy for a brilliant newcomer. Cilicia reacts with disbelief as the thought appears that Tenny's must complete all that work alone. Cilicia watches with worry while Tenny's responds with a gentle smile and expresses that the task brings no trouble to him and that the work does not bother him. Tenny's soon appears outside near the steps of the building and quietly observes the garden that waits for clearing. Tenny's reflects that not long ago he lived as a high-born noble and stood as a candidate for the position of lord. Tenny's then accepts the present moment with calm resolve as the former noble now spends his time doing humble labor, such as mowing the grass in the countryside field. Tenny's works quietly in the tall grass and reflects that such a situation feels like the best outcome as peaceful labor allows full focus on the task without disturbance from anyone. Tenny's lowers his gaze in silent thought while the simple work continues without complaint. Humid watches through the window of the guild building and observes the young boy kneeling alone in the field while curiosity grows about the quiet newcomer who accepts such work without resistance. Tenny's reaches toward the tall grass and decides to give the task a try while the quiet field surrounds him. Tenny's lowers his head and carefully slows his breathing in preparation for the work ahead. Tenny's then halts the movement with firm control as a silent command rises within his thoughts to stop it. Humid suddenly reacts with confusion and shock while watching from the window as an unexpected change unfolds before his eyes. Humid watches the field with growing confusion as a small bird moves through the grass while a faint shape of Tenny's appears within the tall weeds. The bird continues to search the ground without fear, as if no human presence exists nearby. Tenny's kneels quietly within the grass and continues the work with careful movement while the presence of the boy remains faint and difficult to notice. Humid stand by the open window of the guild building and observe the strange scene with silent surprise as the boy blends into the quiet field. Humid stands near the window and quietly accepts the strange sight while the thought forms that the truth had already been suspected. Tenny's reflects that his natural presence has always been very faint and deep focus makes it even harder for other people to notice him. Tenny's also understands that once breathing returns to a normal rhythm, the faint presence will slowly return as before. Humid suddenly notices a shift as a strong awareness spreads through the air, and surprise rises when the presence of Tenny's becomes clear again. Tenny's prepares the next step of the method and begins to form the image within his mind. Tenny's envisions his body becoming a tiny speck of darkness that slowly fades from sight. Tenny's continues the thought as the small trace of existence rises into the air and disappears as if every mark of his presence is erased from the world. Humid suddenly pauses near the window as confusion rises in his thoughts, and a strange question forms about the reason for standing at the front of the window. Humid looks around with uncertainty, while the moment feels unclear and difficult to understand. Humid slowly turns away, while the thought forms that people no longer notice Tenny's, and even the memory of his existence quietly disappears. The fading presence of Tenny's quietly takes effect as the existence of the boy slips from human awareness and begins to vanish from memory. Tenny's recalls the moment before the stone of the oracle and reflects that no job had been granted by the will of God on that day. Tenny's then reaches a quiet belief that the truth of that moment held a different meaning, as even God failed to notice his existence. Tenny's understands that the unnoticed presence became the reason the hermit job was received at that very moment. Tenny's reflects that the special trait of the hermit remains unnoticeable in almost every situation, and at first glance the ability appears useless to most people. Tenny's then realizes that the value of such a trait depends entirely on the way it is used, and the quiet ability can become something formidable. Tenny spreads his arms with sudden excitement as the truth becomes clear and the hermit ability reveals itself as the path meant for him. Tenny's bursts with delight as the truth becomes clear and understands that no job could suit a shut in life better than this path. Tenny's realizes that mastery of the hermit ability allows his presence to fade to the limit and causes the guild staff to forget his existence whenever he wishes. Tenny's imagines the simple benefit that such control allows early departure from work and endless naps without notice. Tenny's lifts both arms toward the sky with gratitude and offers thanks to the House of Lemaire for the path that allowed this new life to begin. Tenny's then quietly remembers Sister Fiona and gives sincere thanks for the kindness once received. The day continues as a warm drink is placed before him, and the simple words of praise arrive as recognition for the work completed by Tenny's today. Tenny sits quietly at the table and offers thanks for the tea while Celicia reacts with playful protest and reminds him that seniority still belongs to her. Humid suddenly enters the room and greets the newcomer with surprise while asking about the progress of the weed-pulling task. Celicia politely addresses Humid while Tenny's calmly explains that the work has already been finished. Shock spreads across Humid as disbelief rises at the thought that such a large task could be completed so quickly. Silence soon settles outside the guild building where the wide garden now stands completely cleared of weeds. Tenny's explains that a fire spell had been cast upon the overgrown grass, and the flames burned everything from the roots while the task required little effort. Celicia reacts with astonishment while Humid stares in disbelief and wonders when the work had been completed. The quiet boy then returns to simple matters and calmly asks if any other jobs remain available. Humid answers that no tasks remain while the workday has already reached the time to clock out. Tenny's calmly announces that he will leave first as the workday has already ended. Humid reacts with sudden anger and calls out in protest while Celicia watches with stunned confusion. Tenny's walks away without concern and the quiet attitude leaves the others behind as the feeling grows that the boy simply brushed them aside and clocked out without hesitation. The scene soon shifts to the peaceful town where the day continues beyond the guild building. Tenny's lies across the small bed inside a cramped and rather dark house, while the quiet thought forms that this ramshackle place has become his new home. A deep sense of comfort spreads through him, and the simple moment feels very good after the long day. Tenny's then remembers the newspaper secretly taken from the guild earlier, and lifts it with quiet curiosity, while a thoughtful hum escapes as he begins to read. The memory of leaving work earlier also returns as the simple thought remains that the time had already come to clock out. He reflects that the missing newspaper drew no attention from anyone after leaving the guild building. Tenny's quietly wonders whether the effect occurred because his hand touched the object while the mind wished to hide it from notice. He then focuses on the hermit ability and concludes that 2 clear functions have already been confirmed and decides to give each ability a personal title. Tenny's considers the first ability called Faint Shadow, which holds the power to make his presence faint and difficult to notice. Tenny's then reflects on the second ability called Spiriting Away, which allows the things that his hands touch to become less noticeable to others. A quiet thought forms in his mind that mastery of these abilities would surely grant great advantage in many situations. News then spreads that a small skirmish unfolds between the House of Balzac ranked 8th in the Luminaries order and the House of Exlod ranked 10th in the order along the frontier of the territory. Tennies lowers his gaze as the quiet thought forms that the moment has finally begun and the long-awaited conflict has started. The war that rises across the land is known as the Succession War. This struggle carries a single purpose which will decide who ascends the throne and who will claim the title of emperor. The vast sky stretches above the land as the great estate stands beneath the clouds while the fate of the empire slowly moves toward that final decision. The ruler of the house declares that Fiona will stand as the legitimate next head of the family as preparation for the coming succession war begins. A glowing jewel rests within his hands as the power of the family gathers inside the small radiant stone. The ruler then offers the jewel forward and grants it to Fiona as the symbol of authority and commands that she receive the jewel. The shining jewel floats before Fiona as the truth of its origin is revealed that 11 jewels have been passed down through generations to the emperor and the luminaries. The sacred stones are known as magical tools once granted by a god to the very first emperor of the empire. Fiona gazes at the jewel as its power approaches her, and the sudden force strikes her body as the jewel accepts its new bearer. A quiet breath escapes Fiona, while Lord Douglas watches the moment in silence as the ancient power completes its bond with her. Fiona stands in the hall while the people around her acknowledge that the jewel has been officially received, and this moment confirms her place as a luminary. The jewel becomes proof of that status as the room quietly accepts the change in authority. Lord Douglas then reminds Fiona that the path ahead demands action worthy of the next head of the family, and that her duty must be fulfilled without hesitation. The command follows that Fiona must give her full strength and ability to endure the coming succession war and survive the struggle that will decide the future. Fiona lowers her voice and accepts the command of Lord Douglas as she acknowledges him as father and accepts the duty placed upon her. Later, Fiona stands alone upon the balcony while the wide city stretches below as the weight of the coming war rests quietly in her thoughts. Tears gather in Fiona's hands, yet the young attendant near her asks with concern whether Lady Fiona still continues to cry. Fiona answers that she is not crying as she hides the tears and holds herself steady while the burden of her new role remains within her heart. Fiona turns her face as the truth becomes clear that tear stains remain upon her cheeks despite her quiet denial. The attendant gently assumes that Fiona's thoughts are directed toward Master Tennies. Fiona falls into silence as her hands press against her face while the memory remains heavy in her heart. The attendant then reflects that if the result would cause such sorrow, then the family should never have banished him. Fiona softly gathers herself and accepts the painful truth that the past cannot be changed while the name of Tennies lingers in her thoughts. Fiona quietly accepts the harsh judgment that Tennies was declared unfit to continue living within the house. Fiona remembers how Lord Douglas once explained that Tennies remained confined within a room because his body carried a weak constitution. The matter of the oracle also stood before them, and because of that Lord Douglas decided that there was no longer a reason to keep Tennies under his protection. She already understood that truth, yet another reason soon followed as Lord Douglas believed that Tennies might face danger if he remained inside the castle. The attendant questions the decision and wonders if the banishment happened because of that reason, and suggests that Tennies could have been told the truth instead. Concern grows that Tennies might hold resentment toward Fiona because of the harsh choice forced upon him. Fiona raises her voice and accepts the burden as she declares that such anger would be directed toward her alone because she was the only one placed in a blessed position. Fiona also believes that if Tennies carries hatred and resentment toward her, then his life outside the castle may become better than the fate waiting within these walls. Fiona then reveals her true wish that Tennies should live a peaceful life, surrounded by kind people far from the harsh walls of the castle. The attendant pleads for Fiona to stop blaming herself, and insists that there is no reason for Fiona to carry such a heavy burden upon her shoulders. The attendant asks whether Lady Fiona plans to keep fighting despite everything that has already happened. Fiona lifts her head with firm resolve and accepts that very burden as her own responsibility. Fiona declares that because of this pain, and because of everything that has happened, she will become the one who brings an end to it all. Fiona declares with firm conviction that this purpose proves the reason she was chosen as the saint. Fiona believes that the duty placed upon her existence is to end the suffering that surrounds the coming conflict. The attendant hesitates with concern and softly calls Fiona's name, yet Fiona remains silent as her determination continues to hold firm within her heart. After those words, Fiona turns away from the balcony and grants the attendant permission to leave for the day. Fiona remains seated in silence beneath the night sky while the truth of power returns to her thoughts that the one who becomes emperor will carry a great debt toward the saint. This fate quietly connects the future emperor to Fiona through an obligation that cannot be ignored. Fiona slowly turns her head as a faint sound reaches her, and the quiet moment breaks while the night continues to surround the balcony. The sacred rule states that the one who rises as emperor will owe a great favor to the saint, and that favor grants the right to stand before God and receive the granting of one single wish. Such power holds the ability to change the very rules of the world depending upon the desire carried within that wish. Fiona slowly raises her hand as the meaning of that power settles deeply within her thoughts. Fiona forms a quiet resolve as her hand tightens, and the determination grows that something must be done with that wish. Yet hesitation lingers within her heart as the weight of the decision remains heavy. Fiona lies upon the bench beneath the quiet night as fear slowly rises within her heart. The memory of Tenny's appears beside her like a distant presence while the silence surrounds the garden. Fiona admits that fear continues to trouble her, and the name of Tenny's escapes from her thoughts as the only comfort she remembers. Tenny's quietly understands the truth within Fiona's heart and accepts that Fiona has always been that kind of person. Fiona lies upon the bench while slow breaths escape as she tries to steady herself. Tenny's believes that Fiona's decision to send him away from the family was meant to protect him from the dangerous malice that exists within their own bloodline. Tenny's realizes that the order of exile was not cruelty, but a shield created for his safety. Tenny's holds this understanding without anger and calmly accepts the truth that Fiona's actions were always meant to guard him. Tenny's stands beside the bench and looks down at Fiona while a quiet thought moves through his mind. Tenny's believes that if Fiona had never wished to carry the burden of her present status, then he would have taken her away from the castle in secret. That intention once lived firmly within his heart as a promise to protect her. Yet Tenny's now accepts that such a path can no longer be taken and understands that he cannot do that anymore. Fiona once reached out her hand toward Tenny's with bright hope and created a promise between them that Tenny's would help her if something ever happened to her. Fiona also returned the same vow and declared that she would help Tenny's if misfortune ever reached him. That small promise quietly bound their hearts together through trust and warmth. The memory lingers within Tenny's mind as he lowers his head while the weight of that promise returns to his thoughts. Tenny's believes that even if force were used to take Fiona away from the castle, she would still choose to return to this place. Tenny's understands that Fiona's heart will never abandon the duty she accepted within these walls. Tenny's looks down at Fiona resting upon the bench and quietly calls her sister while the memory of their shared vow returns to his mind. Tenny's wonders if Fiona still remembers the promise they once made together. Tenny's recalls that Fiona once protected him after becoming a hermit and quietly kept the promise she made in the past. That memory awakens a new resolve within Tenny's as he realizes that the moment has come for him to protect Fiona in return. Tenny's accepts that this duty now belongs to him and believes the time has arrived for that promise to be fulfilled. Fiona rests beneath the blanket while faint awareness returns and a tired thought forms within her mind that such a troublesome sister still remains beside her. Fiona slowly wakes upon the bench, and the quiet night surrounds her as she softly calls the Tenny's while searching the empty space nearby. Fiona looks around with faint confusion while the lingering warmth of that presence fades from the moment. Fiona then accepts the quiet truth within her thoughts and understands that there is no way Tenny's could truly be there beside her. Fiona lifts her head with surprise as the quiet thought forms within her mind that such a moment cannot be real. Fiona struggles to accept the strange feeling that still lingers around her. Far away, Tenny's walks alone along a narrow forest path, while a firm resolve fills his heart. Tenny's moves forward with a single purpose, that he will protect his sister. Tenny's continues forward while a quiet understanding grows within his mind. Tenny's knows that involvement in the struggle for succession will pull him into a storm of danger. Tenny's realizes that such a path will bring greater malice, darker murder, intent, and deeper conspiracies than the shadows that once surrounded life within the castle. Tenny's accepts that this choice will place him in a far more dangerous world. Tenny's reaches a quiet conclusion as his thoughts settle on a single path that must be taken. He understands that involvement in the succession war will worry Fiona, who lives apart from the world as a hermit. He also accepts that such a heavy burden is far too great for someone who should remain hidden from the chaos. He therefore decides that only one course remains before him. Tennis chooses to move through the shadows and act quietly while remaining unseen, just as a shut-in should live. Within the holy empire of Novelius, the powerful nobles, known as the 10 Luminaries, rule vast territories that surround the imperial capital, which stands at the center of their dominion. Each noble governs lands granted under this order, while the balance of power quietly shapes the empire. On the distant border between the territory of Balsac, which holds the 8th position among the 10 Luminaries, and the territory of Ekaroa, conflict begins to rise as soldiers clash upon the battlefield. The struggle spreads across the land as warriors advance and blades fall, while the tension of war grows within the empire. Ignace Balsac stands before his advancing riders as the heir who will lead the House of Balsac in the future. He looks ahead with firm authority, while the soldiers gather behind him. He calls out toward the hesitation before him and demands to know why anyone still lingers in that place when the battle moves forward. A nearby attendant approaches with caution and calls out to Master Ignace while seeking his attention during the unfolding struggle. Ignace sits upon his horse while impatience grows within his thoughts, and he looks over the small clash along the frontier. Ignace considers the fighting a petty skirmish that wastes precious time and wonders how long such meaningless conflict will continue. Ignace admits deep frustration because waiting brings him great displeasure, and the slow pace of the battle only deepens that irritation. The soldier also reminds Ignace that an attack upon another territory requires a proper cause because both sides belong to the Holy Empire and stand as kin beneath the same rule. The soldier reports the situation with unease and explains that the battle continues along the frontier where the enemy presses into their domain while many casualties have already fallen among their forces. Ignace listens to this explanation and then calls out with a short remark as a new thought forms within his mind. Ignace turns his attention toward Vinny and calls her name while asking what meaning should be given to a just cause. Vinny answers that a just cause is simply a reason that everyone can accept and believe without doubt. Ignace then reaches a simple conclusion that such a reason already exists. Ignace listens to this explanation and then reflects upon the struggle for the emperor throne which already shapes the succession war across the empire. Ignace reflects upon the position of the House of Balsac, which already stands 8th within the order of the 10 Luminaries. Ignace begins to explain his thoughts with blunt honesty and admits that simple thinking suits him best. Ignace then imagines a bold path where the gem of authority is taken from the other future heads of the great houses so that a rightful claim to become the next head can be secured. Ignace believes that once such a position is obtained, the path will open before him and he will rise as the next emperor, while no one will remain capable of stopping that ambition. The messenger immediately accepts the command and responds with firm obedience. The signal spreads across the field as soldiers halt their advance and prepare to withdraw from the clash. Ignace gives a clear order and commands the soldiers to call back their forces from the battlefield. Ignace leads the mounted soldiers away from the battlefield as the formation moves forward across the land. The riders follow behind their leader, while the sound of marching hooves spreads across the field. Ignace rides at the front with firm purpose, while the army gathers and surges forward in a unified charge. Ignace raises his hand as weapons rush toward him, yet his movement shows complete control over the moment. Ignace then releases the power of his core flame and calls forth the technique known as Flame Pillar as fire begins to surge from his strength. Ignace unleashes the power of Flame Pillar and a violent surge of fire bursts forward across the battlefield. The blazing force crashes into the enemy ranks and throws the soldiers into chaos as cries of pain rise from the burning line. The overwhelming flame spreads through the formation and the battlefield fills with desperate screams as the attack consumes everything before it. The burning force of Ignace's attack sweeps across the battlefield and the enemy soldiers fall as the ground becomes a field of scattered bodies. Painful groans escape from the few who still move among the fallen, while the destruction spreads across the land. Ignace stands at a distance beside his horse and looks over the ruined field, while the last voices of suffering fade into the silence. Ignace raises his hand above the devastated battlefield and declares a message that will be carried to the Lord of the House of Exrode. Ignace proclaims his title as the Flame Emperor and demands that the gem be handed over without delay. Ignace continues his declaration with ruthless certainty and warns that refusal will bring destruction upon the people and the land of the House of Exrode. Ignace promises that the territory and its people will be burned until nothing remains but ash. Tenny sits quietly while reading the report that announces the House of Balsac has declared war upon the House of Exrode, and a thoughtful silence settles over him. Tenny reflects on the news with a faint murmur while the weight of the report lingers in his mind. Felicia notices the distant look on his face and approaches him with concern as she calls his name and asks about the reason behind such a troubled expression. Felicia gently encourages Tenny to ask any question if confusion remains, so that understanding may come more easily. Felicia gathers her thoughts and remembers that another matter waits to be asked of Tenny. Felicia first wonders if Tenny has finished sorting the documents that filled the room with work. Tenny explains that the task was already completed earlier at noon. Felicia reacts with surprise and admiration because such work usually requires several days to finish. Felicia then confirms that a question still remains for Tenny as the conversation continues. Tenny begins to reveal his thoughts and explains that preparation must begin in secret so that support for his sister Fiona can quietly grow. Tenny then asks Felicia about the surrounding area and wonders if a wide place exists that remains unnoticed and abandoned by others. Tenny also remembers a darker idea where the hermit ability could remove the future heads through assassination, yet such a plan feels too unrealistic to pursue. Tenny reflects on the path ahead and realizes that greater power must be gained along with a proper base loyal staff and sufficient funds. Tenny then forms a quiet resolve to gather strength and influence in secret, so that one day the power will rival the 10 luminaries and allow support for Fiona from the hidden shadows. Tenny reflects on his plan and understands that a suitable base must be found so that quiet work can begin in secret. The thought of an abandoned place lingers in the air, and the idea begins to take shape in Tenny's mind. Felicia listens and remembers a distant place, then speaks of an old graveyard hidden deep within the mountains where few people ever travel. Tenny considers the words of Felicia and begins to understand the place she described. The thought becomes clear as Tenny realizes that the abandoned place is the old graveyard hidden deep within the mountains. Tenny quickly realizes that the abandoned graveyard will serve as the perfect place for his hidden plans. Gratitude rises within him as he acknowledges Felicia and expresses sincere thanks for the helpful idea. Felicia begins to question the strange request and wonders why Tenny would search for a place that stands so deserted and far from others. The question lingers as Felicia tries to understand the meaning behind such a choice and the quiet purpose that may guide Tenny's actions. The room then falls into sudden stillness, and Felicia quickly realizes that Tenny has already slipped away without another word, leaving only the fading trace of his hurried departure. Tenny arrives at the old graveyard hidden deep within the mountains and studies the quiet land that stretches wide around him. Tenny realizes that the place is vast and rarely visited by anyone, which makes it suitable for his secret plans. Satisfaction grows as Tenny recognizes that the graveyard is almost perfect for his purpose. The thought soon shifts as Tenny considers the uneven ground and understands that the footing of the land will require improvement before it can truly serve as a proper base. Prill responds with lively energy and a cheerful bark while showing happiness at Tenny's arrival. Tenny acknowledges Prill and gently asks about the creature well-being as the quiet graveyard gains a small moment of friendly life. Tenny kneels beside the small creature that often remains near the graveyard and greets the familiar companion with quiet warmth as he notes that the loyal presence still lingers in the same place. Tenny lifts Prill gently and studies the small magical beast with quiet curiosity while reflecting that the creature is still only a young cub. The thought follows with wonder about how such a small being manages to survive alone in a place as harsh and silent as the graveyard. Tenny then turns his attention to the surroundings and begins to wonder if somewhere within this land a safe place might exist where shelter can be found. Prill suddenly runs across the quiet graveyard and moves between the old stones as Tenny follows with curious attention. The small creature stops before a narrow opening hidden within the rock and reveals a simple shelter inside the cliff. Tenny observes the small dwelling and begins to understand that this place serves as Prill's home within the lonely graveyard. The realization forms gently as Tenny acknowledges that Prill lives within that small refuge. Prill suddenly leaps toward the dark opening within the rock and disappears inside the narrow space. Tennies watches the small movement with surprise, then steps closer to examine the strange hollow hidden within the stone. Curiosity grows as Tennies reaches out and places his hand against the surface where faint glowing symbols rest around the hole. Confusion follows when the unfamiliar markings react to his touch, and the unexpected sight leaves Tennies staring in quiet bewilderment. Tennies stands before the newly revealed passage that stretches deep into the darkness beneath the mountain. The entrance appears unnatural and hidden within the stone, which causes suspicion to rise within his thoughts. Tennies carefully studies the silent tunnel and senses that such a place could easily conceal danger. The uneasy possibility grows stronger as Tennies considers that the mysterious passage may be nothing more than a hidden trap waiting within the shadows. Tennies looks toward the hidden stairway that descends beneath the graveyard, and excitement begins to replace his earlier suspicion. The discovery of an underground pathway beneath the abandoned graveyard feels like the entrance to a secret place hidden from the world. Curiosity grows stronger within Tennies, and the mysterious passage becomes far too captivating to ignore. Determination quickly takes hold as Tennies decides that such an intriguing place must be explored without hesitation. Tennies steps into the hidden underground chamber and pauses as the vast room spreads before him with large doors and silent walls that seem far too grand for a place buried beneath a graveyard. Surprise rises within Tennies as the strange sight leaves him wondering what kind of place truly exists here. The quiet moment continues as Tennies begins to look around and notices that Prill is nowhere to be seen, which leads him to call for the small companion while searching the room. Curiosity then draws Tennies toward a nearby door where unfamiliar markings glow faintly, and his hand reaches forward to touch the strange surface as confusion grows within his thoughts. The heavy door slowly opens with a long creak that echoes through the silent hall. Within the quiet library, a mysterious young woman dressed in a maid uniform stands among the towering shelves and turns as the sound reaches her. The unexpected meeting begins as Tennies unknowingly steps into the presence of the unknown guardian of the hidden place. The girl within the vast library turns toward the entrance and greets the unexpected arrival with formal courtesy while acknowledging the presence of a visitor after a long passage of time. Tennies pauses at the doorway as surprise grows within him because the quiet underground place was never expected to hold another person. Uncertainty lingers as Tennies gathers his composure and offers a hesitant greeting while still wondering how a girl could be living within the hidden library beneath the graveyard. The girl steps forward with composed posture and expresses regret toward Tennies for speaking such words immediately after his arrival. Duty remains firm within her stance as she explains that the room is not permitted for the presence of others. The rule stands unchanged as the girl firmly requests that Tennies leave the place without delay. Surprise spreads across Tennies' face as the sudden rejection settles within the silent library. The girl remains unmoved and confirms that the decision stands without change. The realization settles over Tennies as he understands that the maid truly intends to send him away without hesitation. Tennies tries to slow the moment and asks if a few questions could be allowed before leaving. The girl stands firm before Tennies and makes it clear that no questions will be accepted within this place. Tennies stands within the vast library and begins to question the mysterious maid as curiosity continues to grow. He seeks to know who she is and what kind of place truly exists beneath the graveyard, while also wondering about the owner of such a hidden library. Another thought follows as Tennies expresses interest in borrowing the place if permission could somehow be granted. The girl remains unmoved and reminds Tennies once again that questions will not be accepted within this room. Tennies gently persists and asks if at least a single question could be allowed before he leaves the hidden library. The girl pauses and quiet frustration slips into her expression as she reflects on the stubborn request. A brief moment passes before she reluctantly decides to allow one question despite her earlier refusal. The decision settles between them as the girl declares that one question will be accepted. She grips the sword and slowly draws the blade as the atmosphere within the hidden library shifts into quiet danger. Her gaze remains cold as the truth is revealed that anyone who learns of this place cannot be allowed to leave alive. The firm declaration settles heavily in the silent hall as the girl prepares to carry out the duty she believes cannot be avoided. The girl raises her sword and declares that a final gift will be given to Tennies as a souvenir meant to follow him into the afterlife. Tennies stands before her with quiet surprise, yet responds with a light remark that such a gift from a maid would certainly be memorable. The strange exchange hangs between them as the threat of the blade and the unexpected calm of Tenny's meet within the silent library. Tenny notices the growing hostility and offers an apology in case his earlier remark caused offense within the tense moment. The girl receives the words without easing her guard and wonders if the response was meant as a joke. Doubt quickly fades as the maid decides that hesitation holds no purpose, and she moves forward with swift resolve while raising the sword toward him. The girl moves with swift precision and unleashes a powerful strike that tears through the space of the library with overwhelming force. The blade cuts forward, and the impact sends a violent shock across the hall as the path of the attack crashes through the shelves and walls. The destructive wave spreads across the vast room as the maid completes the strike with unwavering resolve. Amid the collapsing shelves and scattered books, the maid reveals her identity at last and declares that her name is Lieselot. She continues the introduction while the ruins of the shattered library settle around her and explains that she was once known by a former title. The quiet declaration completes as Lieselot reveals that she had once been called the Sword Princess. Lieselot stands among the ruined shelves while the silence returns after her powerful strike. Tenny suddenly appears close behind her and calmly points out that her answer arrived far too slowly. The quiet remark continues as Tenny notes that under normal circumstances, such hesitation would have already meant death. The unexpected presence reaches Lieselot at last, and shock spreads across her face as she realizes that Tenny somehow moved behind her without notice. Tenny faces Lieselot and calmly reflects on the danger of the attack that had just passed moments earlier. The quiet admission follows as Tenny acknowledges that a slight delay in judgment would have resulted in his body being cut cleanly in two. The moment settles as Tenny also expresses relief that a faint sense of warning guided his actions during this encounter. Tenny studies her and repeats the title Sword Princess while trying to connect the name with the legend known across history. Curiosity grows as Tenny recalls that the Sword Princess was said to be a legendary figure who existed 100 years earlier. The realization leads Tenny to question whether she truly stands as that same figure despite the long passage of time. She listens without surprise and calmly notes that much time has indeed already passed. Tenny with a sharp gaze and reaches a quiet conclusion that she is not a human. She gives a small twitch at those words as the strange truth settles between them. She confirms the truth of her existence and reveals that her nature is a synthetic life form created by design. Tenny recalls that research on sentient life forms continued for hundreds of years and no successful case was ever heard before, and this revelation becomes a quiet surprise. Lieselot reveals that many other experiments ended in failure and no result remained except her own existence, while the master who created her regarded this success as nothing more than a matter of luck. His thoughts turn toward the mysterious master who created Lieselot, and the question of that creator grows stronger while she advances with her blade raised and the coming clash approaches. The truth spreads between them as Tenny listens and realizes that countless attempts had already vanished before this moment. She realizes that Tenny vanished for a brief moment and recognizes that such movement is quite tricky for an opponent. Tenny remains standing at a distance while Lieselot lowers her gaze and gathers strength before another sudden advance. Her long hair moves with the motion as her body surges forward and the blade sweeps through the air with fierce speed. The strike crashes across the ground and spreads with force while Tenny remains before the rushing attack, and the clash between them continues to rise. The fierce strike crashes through the towering shelves and countless valuable books scatter and break apart across the library. He watches the destruction spread and speaks of those valuable books while the thought of their loss fills the moment. His concern turns toward the master who created Lieselot, and the question rises whether that creator would grow angry at such damage. Lieselot reminds herself of the pact that binds her duty and declares that eliminating intruders holds greater priority than protecting the books of this place. Her attention returns to him as curiosity grows, and the question rises about the strange way Tenny disappears for brief moments. Tenny listens to the sharp inquiry, yet reveals that such speed does not belong to his nature, and she finds that he hardly appears to be the swift sort. Tenny wonders if such words form a true question and proposes an exchange where each side answers the other in equal turn. Lieselot accepts the proposal and agrees to the exchange, yet reminds Tenny to remember that a single move into an offensive stance will bring the strike of her blade without hesitation. Tennies feels a quiet unease at the warning carried within she words, and the thought of such readiness feels frightening. The exchange continues as Tennies begins to answer the question, and reveals that the strange disappearance comes from his own ability. His presence can fade at will, and that fading can occur without limit. Lieselot listens while Tennies reaches for a book among the shelves, and the explanation continues as his presence grows faint once again. He reveals the name of his strange power, and calls the phenomenon spriting away, while explaining that objects touched by his hand can also become unnoticeable. The book within his hand fades from attention as the ability takes effect, and the quiet display reaches her. Lieselot recognizes the nature of this ability, and disbelief grows within her thoughts as the power should not exist while Tennies notices that she already knows of it. He continues the explanation and reveals that objects touched by his hand become difficult to notice while the size of the target demands greater energy and longer time to cast the effect. Such limits force him to search for ways to buy time whenever the target grows larger. The truth settles in the quiet space of the library as the moment reaches its end and the outcome becomes clear as Tennies claims the victory. The hidden force of Tennies' ability reaches its target, and a massive shelf crashes down with violent impact as books scatter across the floor and dust rises through the library. The sudden collapse spreads through the quiet hall, while the heavy structure traps Lieselot beneath the fallen weight. Lieselot remains within the wreckage as the unexpected result settles, and a short sound of confusion escapes from her. Lieselot struggles beneath the fallen shelf, and confusion spreads through her thoughts as the sudden trap leaves her unable to understand what happened. Tennies reveals the truth behind the victory, and explains that Lieselot's attention followed the movement of his left hand, while his power gathered within the bookshelf through his right leg, and erased it from her sight. The hidden shelf then fell with force, and enhancement magic pushed it down upon Lieselot. The fallen shelf shatters apart, and Lieselot rises from the wreckage, while fragments of wood and scattered books fall around her. Lieselot rejects the thought of defeat, and reveals that such a weak attack cannot even leave a mark upon her outer armor. The claim of victory fades as Lieselot questions whether Tennies truly believed that such a small strike could wipe her out. Lieselot points her blade toward Tennies as the strange power remains within her thoughts, and the question rises about the true nature behind Tennies. Tennies recognizes her interest and acknowledges that curiosity has taken hold of her attention. She admits the truth, yet reveals that the pact binding her duty prevents such curiosity from standing above the orders she must follow. She casts aside her curiosity and raises her blade with firm resolve as the pact that binds her existence returns to the front of her thoughts. The order given to her remains clear and unchanging as the duty of eliminating intruders stands above all else. Lieselot advances with unwavering purpose and prepares to carry out the command to eliminate intruders and nothing more. Tennies steps close before the blade of She and calmly proposes the idea of rescinding the pact that binds her duty. The suggestion enters the tense space between them as Lieselot holds her weapon steady and listens to the unexpected offer. Tennies turns attention toward the written pact displayed nearby and recognizes it as the command that binds She. The words declare the order that all intruders must be eliminated, and the rule stands as the force guiding her actions. Tennies reveals that during the moment when Lieselot was trapped beneath the fallen bookshelf, he used his ability to conceal the first line of that command. The change leaves the pact altered as the hidden words remove the order that once demanded the elimination of intruders. Tennies continues while standing before the altered pact and adds another quiet explanation. She watches him and realizes that Tennies can read the ancient script written within the command. Tennies reveals that free time often remains within his days, and that time led him toward much studying until the old language became familiar to him. Tennies reveals that the altered pact has removed the command that once controlled Lieselot, and the binding rule has now disappeared. The truth settles before she as the weight of that freedom becomes clear, and nothing remains to hold her in place any longer. She stands in silence as the sudden freedom unsettles her thoughts, and the question of why such help was given rises from her confusion. Tennies explains that life bound beneath constant orders must feel unpleasant, and the feeling that guided his action resembles a quiet sense of camaraderie. The moment passes, and Tennies returns to the earlier exchange as the time arrives for Lieselot to answer his question about the one who created that pact. She begins to reveal the truth about the one who created the pact, and describes a man who possessed an ability similar to the strange power held by Tennies. Tennies listens to the story and recognizes the nature of that figure, and the thought forms that the creator must have been a hermit. The memory continues as she explains that the man suddenly left her behind 100 years ago and never returned again. Tennies reflects on the story and understands that such a person once existed within the house of Lemaire and held the same duty that now belongs to him, though that person was later cast out from the family. The thought leads him to consider that the same man must have built an underground palace beneath the land and created a synthetic made to serve within that hidden place. Tennies continues the reflection and admits that the reason behind such actions remains unknown to him, addresses the intruder with hesitation, and recognizes him with the title of Sir Intruder. Tennies answers with quiet composure and reveals that his name is Tennies, though he treats the introduction as something of little importance. Accepts the name and acknowledges him once more with respect as Sir Tennies. Lowers her posture with firm resolve and requests that Tennies accept her as his subordinate while addressing him with respect as Sir Tennies. He hears the sudden request and reacts with confusion as the unexpected proposal leaves him startled and searching for reason, while a brief question of why forms within his thoughts. Continues her confession and explains that loneliness and boredom filled the long passage of time while she waited for the return of her master for 100 years. Reveals that her existence was created through a pact, and that the terms of that pact never allowed her to hold any will of her own before it. Explains that the pact once bound her like shackles and held her existence under its command until Tennies released her from those restraints. Continues with sincere resolve and expresses the wish to return that kindness by offering herself in service, so the favor that freed her may be answered. Tennies accepts words with gentle understanding and expresses quiet pleasure after hearing her intention. Tennies then reminds that the pact has already been broken and that freedom now belongs to her, so any path she desires should be chosen by her own will. Tennies continues with honest clarity and assures that these words do not arise from a sense of obligation. Places a hand over her chest and reveals that the decision before Tennies is not born from duty or command, but from something far more personal. Declares that the choice to remain and serve beside Tennies comes only from her own will.